Are you a loyal Netflix subscriber? Or maybe you've recently left the platform. Or like most people, maybe you're stealing someone else's password. Either way, you've probably recently noticed the decline in both the quality and quantity of content on the platform. And you're not alone. Actually, since 2015, the amount of content on Netflix has declined by 35%, and the amount of Netflix original content has increased to 40% of the overall content library. To understand why this is happening, and why companies like Disney are catching up to Netflix so quickly, we need to go back to the start of the company and to understand its decision to build an entire business on licenses and not intellectual property. Hi, my name's Liam, and I'm a lawyer that helps businesses overcome their legal challenges. Today, we're going to be discussing Netflix and its licensing problem. Netflix was founded in 1997 when co-founders Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph were inspired by Amazon to start selling products online. Before you say it, no. The story about a $20 late fee from Blockbuster is not true. Reed Hastings himself has confirmed that was not his motivation for starting Netflix. Like Amazon, they needed a product with lots of demand and lots of variety that was easy to ship. Jeff Bezos once said that Amazon had to choose between books and music. Both of them had a lot of demand, a lot of variety, and were great products to initiate an online business. Netflix, they went for movies, and DVDs had just been released. And unlike VHS tapes, they were easy to mail, and Netflix would have a first mover advantage. After a $2.5 million investment from co-founder Reed Hastings, the company was up and running, and within months they got an offer from Jeff Bezos to buy them for between $14 and $16 million. They turned down that offer, and a few months later, they started offering a monthly subscription instead of a per rental pricing model, and that's when the company took off. While business was good, the dot-com bubble caused the company's stock to crash, and the founders were forced to offer to sell their company to Blockbuster for $50 million. Fortunately for them, the Blockbuster CEO thought they were joking and turned down the offer. Netflix was forced to lay off 33% of its staff and push back its initial public offering, but weathered the storm and would eventually go public in May 2002, when demand for DVDs was skyrocketing and the company was already shipping out over 1 million DVDs per day. Fast forward to 2007, and the company was looking to transition to streaming. It wanted to be able to offer movies on demand. They were inspired by the success of YouTube, which they believed proved that even with low bandwidth and low streaming quality, consumers would watch videos online. In 2008, as the company was taking off, the Great Recession would hit. While this seems like it might have been something that would have killed Netflix, it was actually the biggest catalyst for its success. See, in 2008, Netflix was a relatively lean company, with a business model that gave it recurring revenues, while other competitors like Blockbuster were relying on customers to come into the store every single week to buy or rent DVDs. Better yet, film studios and cable channels needed both consumers and advertisers to spend money for them to profit. For Netflix, all they needed was for people not to cancel their existing subscriptions. So as Netflix gained prevalence and money throughout the recession, they started to make their moves. Specifically in 2010, as many of these companies that own the best shows like Breaking Bad, Friends, and The Office needed more cash, Netflix got them to agree to license this premium content to them. At the time, streaming rights were a new thing. Studios had never gotten revenue from them. From their perspective, they could still air the show, make ad revenues, sell DVDs, and now this was just bonus free money from streaming. It was a win-win. What these companies didn't anticipate was that Netflix would become so popular that people would completely stop buying DVDs and watching cable channels. So Netflix had its moment of dominance. In the early 2010s, the company had deals with Disney, HBO, AMC, and many more, which allowed it to build a tremendous content library where anyone could come and enjoy their favorite show. The problem was that all of these shows were licensed. Netflix, they didn't own any of them. You see, a license is a legal agreement that allows an individual or company to use a specific product or service that is owned by another company. A license typically has set terms and conditions, which almost always includes a limitation on how long it can be used. An easy way to see the limitations of licenses is using a VPN to change your country so you can access specific content. In these cases, Netflix has the right to show the content in some countries, but not others. What is most important for our story, and to understand why Netflix is suffering today, is for you to remember that licenses expire. You see, Netflix bought the right to many of these shows in 2010. In the last 5 years or so, many of these shows have left the platform. Friends and The Office both left in 2020, and at the time, they were the number 1 and number 2 ranked shows in the United States on Netflix. Criminal Minds left in 2022, and at the time was the most watched show in the United States on Netflix. Actually, for the past 3 years, Netflix has lost the right to the number 1 show in the United States on Netflix. So today, Netflix is suffering because it didn't understand or potentially ignored the legal side effects of its business. It built an entire company on licenses that expire. And when those licenses expired, subscribers left. And the original content owners like HBO, Disney, NBC, AMC all started their own streaming services where they now sell former number 1 shows from Netflix. If we compare 2 major players in the market, Disney and Netflix, we can see how their understanding of the law altered their business strategy. See, in 2008, Disney also saw an opportunity when other studios were hurting. But unlike Netflix, who thought they were capitalizing by trading cash for licenses, Disney took a long-term approach. They bought Fox, and Lucasfilm, and Marvel. See, Disney understands that owning intellectual property is more valuable than licensing movies and films. It's their entire business strategy, and it works. See, they launched their own streaming platform 12 years after Netflix, but within 2 years, they already had more subscribers than Netflix. See, people came to Netflix to watch their favorite shows which Netflix never owned. Those shows are now leaving Netflix. People come to Disney Plus to see Disney, Star Wars, Marvel. All of these shows are owned by Disney. They're not licensed. They will forever be on Disney Plus. The lesson to be learned from Netflix is to build your business on assets you own, not assets you rent. Owning intellectual property is always better than licensing it. So if you're building a business, think again before you use that open source software, licensed images, or content. If you can create it yourself and own it, that's always the better way to go. That way, no one will ever take it from you. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please subscribe and like it to help me out. If you have requests for other topics, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll be happy to get to them.